I used to believe success was all about more. More money, more recognition, more things to prove I'd made it. I worked harder, chased every opportunity, and filled my days with goals that never seemed to end. But one quiet morning, I found myself staring at my overflowing inbox, my coffee gone cold, and my heart empty. I had everything I thought I wanted, yet something inside me was quietly falling apart. That was the day I paused and asked myself a different question. What if success isn't about having more, but needing less? So I began letting go, one small thing at a time. I cleared my schedule, gave away what I didn't use, and started noticing the simple moments I'd been too busy to feel. The morning light through the window, the sound of birds, the peace in just breathing. Life didn't suddenly become perfect, but it became real. And for the first time in years, I felt free. This is my story, why I chose a simple life over success. For years, I chased success exactly the way everyone told me to. Early mornings, late nights, always grinding, always reaching for the next thing, the next raise, the next title, the next house. I told myself that if I just worked a little harder, stayed a little later, I'd finally feel satisfied. And for a while, I did. Every new milestone gave me that rush, a quick spark of pride, a moment of, I made it. But it never lasted. The more I climbed, the smaller each victory felt. The applause faded faster, the joy slipped away sooner. I started to wonder, was this really what success was supposed to feel like? Somewhere along the way, I stopped noticing the sunrise. I stopped calling the people I love. My days became a blur of to-do lists, deadlines, and exhaustion. I told myself it was just temporary, that someday when I finally had enough, I'd slow down and enjoy it all. But that day never came. Instead, I found myself staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., surrounded by everything I thought I wanted, and feeling completely empty inside. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just lost time or sleep, I had lost myself. The laughter, the stillness, the small, beautiful moments that make life real, they'd all slipped through my fingers while I was busy chasing more. And maybe, just maybe, success isn't about reaching higher. Maybe it's about coming back home to who we really are and what truly matters. One morning, I walked into my kitchen and felt nothing. No spark, no warmth. Just the quiet hum of appliances and the cluttered noise of too many things. The coffee maker, the piles of mail, the dishes stacked by the sink. Everything felt heavy, lifeless, and loud. I stood there, barefoot on the cold tile, and for the first time, I realized that it wasn't my kitchen that was draining me. It was the life I had built around it. I took a deep breath and whispered to myself, enough. That single word changed everything. I began letting go, slowly at first, then with more courage. I sold half of what I owned. The extra furniture, the clothes I hadn't worn in years, the boxes filled with someday items. Each thing that left my home seemed to take a little piece of my stress with it. The emptier my rooms became, the lighter I felt. Without the noise of things, I started to hear life again. I spent more time outdoors, walking under tall trees, feeling the air move gently across my face. I sat on park benches and listened to the birds instead of my phone notifications. I watched the sunlight shift through the leaves and felt a kind of peace I hadn't known in decades. I relearned how to breathe, not the shallow kind that gets you through the day, but the deep, grounding breaths that remind you you're alive. And in those quiet moments, I began to understand that happiness was never hiding in the next purchase or the next upgrade. It was always here, waiting in the space I had buried under too much stuff and too many expectations. Now my kitchen is simple, my mornings are calm, and every time I walk in, I feel something again. Gratitude, not for what I have, but for what I finally let go of. You know, life used to feel like a race I never signed up for. Every morning started with the sharp sound of an alarm clock, jolting me out of bed before I was ready. My days were packed, meetings, messages, endless to-do lists. Even when I sat still, my mind was sprinting somewhere else. I told myself I was being productive, but deep down, I was just exhausted, chasing something I couldn't even name. Now, my days are slower, but fuller. I wake up when my body tells me it's time. No alarms, no rush. The first thing I do is make a cup of coffee. Simple, black, nothing fancy. I sit by the window and just watch as the sunlight slowly moves across the floor. It's funny, I used to think moments like that were nothing, just empty time. But now, they've become my favorite part of the day. I've started noticing things I used to miss. The sound of the birds outside, the way the air smells right after it rains, the soft hum of the world waking up. It's like I finally tuned into a quieter frequency, one that was always there, waiting for me to slow down enough to hear it. I spend more time with people, not screens, real conversations, not text bubbles. Sometimes it's a walk with an old friend. Sometimes it's just sitting at the table with family after dinner. No phones, no background noise, just us. We talk, we laugh, we share stories we've told 100 times before, but somehow they never get old. There's something deeply comforting about that, about connection that doesn't need to be fast or polished, just real. And in those moments, between the silence and the laughter, I found something I didn't even realize I'd lost. Peace. Not the kind that comes from a weekend getaway or a self-help book, but the quiet kind that settles deep inside your chest and stays. I used to believe happiness was about achieving more, owning more, doing more. But the older I get, the more I see that real happiness isn't found in the noise. It's found in the pause, in the spaces between one breath and the next. These days, I don't chase the clock anymore. I listen to the rhythm of my own life. Slower, softer, but somehow richer. The world hasn't changed much, but I have. I've learned that peace doesn't arrive all at once. It sneaks in quietly. The moment you stop rushing long enough to notice, it's already there. So if you're tired, if you feel like life's been running too fast, it's okay to slow down. Breathe. Look around. The world won't fall apart if you take a moment for yourself. In fact, it might just start to make sense again. You know, for a long time, I thought success was something I could collect. A better house, a nicer car, a title that sounded impressive when people asked, "So what do you do?" I kept chasing that finish line, thinking just a little more and I'd finally feel content. But here's the truth that took me years, maybe decades, to understand. Success isn't about what we have. It's about who we become when we finally learn to let go. Let go of the need to compare. Let go of the endless wanting. Let go of the idea that we have to prove ourselves to anyone. These days, I've found that real success feels a lot quieter than I expected. It's waking up early and feeling grateful for another sunrise, not rushing, just breathing. It's drinking that first cup of coffee and realizing how comforting the warmth feels in your hands. It's noticing the sound of birds outside or the way light filters through the curtains. Moments so small you could almost miss them. But that's where life really happens. I used to believe that enough meant settling for less. Now I see that enough is one of the most beautiful words we have. Enough means you're no longer fighting to be somewhere else or someone else. It means your heart can finally rest right where you are. When we start living from gratitude instead of scarcity, something shifts inside us. We stop counting what's missing and start noticing what's here. The people we love, the laughter that fills our home, the quiet evenings that remind us we're safe, we're okay. And somehow the world feels softer, lighter, not because everything changed, but because we did. It's funny, isn't it? The older we get, the more we realize that happiness isn't in the big milestones we once chased. It's in the pauses. It's in the peace that comes when we stop running and finally allow ourselves to just be. So maybe success isn't about reaching the top of the mountain after all. Maybe it's sitting halfway up, taking a deep breath, and seeing how far you've already come. Maybe it's smiling at your reflection, wrinkles and all, and whispering, "You made it." Because you have. If you can wake up with gratitude, if you can slow down enough to see beauty in ordinary moments, if you can say, "This is enough," then, my friend, you are already successful, more than you've ever realized. Have you ever felt like the world just keeps spinning faster and faster, and somehow you got caught in the middle of it? Maybe you wake up, check your phone, check the news, rush through breakfast, and before you know it, the day is gone. There's always something to do, somewhere to be, someone waiting for your attention. But deep down, there's a small voice that whispers, "Slow down." It's the same voice that remembers when life used to feel a little lighter, when mornings started with quiet coffee and not a flood of notifications. If this message speaks to you, maybe it's time to slow down too. Maybe it's time to step off the treadmill of more things, more plans, more pressure, and rediscover what's been waiting for you all along: peace, purpose, and joy. These aren't found in the noise of constant striving. They live in the simple, ordinary moments. The sound of rain on your window, the laughter of someone you love, the calm of an evening walk when the sun melts into gold. You see, life doesn't have to be complicated to be beautiful. The most meaningful things often arrive quietly, in stillness, in gratitude, in presence. Somewhere along the way, the world told us that success means accumulation, bigger houses, newer phones, busier schedules. But happiness? Happiness was never about having more. It's about having enough and finally noticing that you already do. At Simple Earth Studio, we believe that life's true richness is found in less clutter, less chaos, less comparison. Because when you clear the noise, you make space for peace to return, for clarity to grow, for joy to breathe again. Imagine what it would feel like to live slower, softer, more intentionally, to wake up and feel calm instead of hurried, to be present, not perfect. Every video we create is an invitation, a quiet reminder that you don't need to chase life. You can simply live it. One mindful breath, one simple day at a time. And maybe in doing so, you'll find what you've been searching for all along. Not the next big thing, but the quiet beauty of now. So if your heart is craving stillness, if you're ready to trade noise for meaning, come join us. Subscribe to Simple Earth Studio and be part of a growing community choosing simplicity over success, calm over chaos, and gratitude over greed. Together, we're learning to slow down, not because life is over, but because we finally understand what it's truly about. Because in the end, happiness isn't something you find. It's something you uncover.